Breath of the Wild is full of some pretty terrifying enemies. Stalnoxen, the colossal skeletal cyclopes that pull trees from the earth and throw them around like kindling wood. Molduga, the titanic whales of the desert that lurk beneath the sands and have admittedly incredible battle music. And of course, the scourge of Hyrule, the Calamity Ganon, an unholy behemoth formed from a twisted mess of machinery and malice. There are some pretty powerful foes in Hyrule, but none of them can hold a candle to the sheer brute strength and raw power of one individual. Link. You thought Link beat his enemies with his clever use of equipment and master swordsmanship? Well, in Breath of the Wild, Link not only holds unbreakable courage and skill, but also far more sheer, raw strength than anything we've seen in the Zelda series so far. So, I've been playing through Breath of the Wild again as I do every few months, and I've noticed some stuff I hadn't before. Like, I don't know if I'm just really dumb, but I only just noticed you can break Varuta's attacks with Cryonis, rather than painstakingly shooting them with arrows. Probably I'm just dumb, judging from what you guys had to say on Twitter. But one thing I've been doing a lot this time around is farming Lynels for some of that sweet weaponry. During the early hours of the game they're hard to kill because of their huge health bar, sure, but you can just parry their attacks, stun them with an arrow, then mount them and hack into them, which doesn't actually use any durability over and over. Wait, did you see that? Any attack this beast throws at us, we can simply knock back with our shield, including stopping a full speed charge from the Lynel and sending it reeling. I've never really thought twice about this before. By simply swinging his shield with his left arm, Link can generate enough force to stop a charging Lynel instantly. Note that this isn't deflecting the Lynel's charge past Link, which would still be a monumental feat of strength, it's meeting it head on and stopping the beast dead in its tracks. Link can parry a whole load of attacks in this game. It's a neat combat mechanic that makes a lot of sense when fighting bokoblins or even moblins, but Link can parry attacks from even the likes of Hinoxen or Calamity Ganon. But for the sake of ease, and not making my head hurt from too much maths, how much force would be required from the shield parry to stop this Lynel charge? I can hear the clacking of keyboards writing angry comments already. I know this is a combat technique in a video game. It's not real and it's exaggerated to make the combat system work in the awesome cinematic way it does. Link can attack in bullet time like the Matrix, or use a tablet to freeze objects in stasis in this game. The parry is admittedly one of his more realistic moves. But for argument's sake, let's have a look at just how strong you'd have to be to parry attacks like a Hylian champion. Alright, so we're dealing with a Lynel charging at Link, which is then met with a full-on smack in the face with a shield, resulting in the Lynel reeling back. It's not even that Link braces with his shield and stops the Lynel slowly, he manages to throw enough force back at the beast to stop it instantly. It goes from full speed to recoiling as soon as he hits it. So let's work out just how much force Link is ramming into the monster's dome to stop this assault. For this we'll be using that formula we all learned and immediately forgot about a few years ago, F equals ma, which means force equals mass times acceleration. Although in this case it'll be deceleration as we're bringing the Lynel from a berserk full speed charge down to 0 instantly with a swing of our shield. So we need both the deceleration of the Lynel and its mass to work out the force Link exacts on it to stop it. For the mass, we'll compare the Lynel to some real life examples. We're basically dealing with a gargantuan primate-like body with a lion's head attached to the legs of a monstrous horse, so we can look at exactly how large it is and then compare it to some real-world creatures to get an estimate for its weight. First off, the horse half. I slapped on my Lynel mask to make friends with this guy at the Colosseum, who works out to be a little over 1.6 times Link's height at his rear end. We don't actually have a canon height for Breath of the Wild Link, but we can see when compared to other Hylians he's pretty short, like Link usually is, and we have ballpark numbers for other incarnations of Link at around 5'3", so we'll go with that, 1.6 meters. This makes the Lynel 2.6 meters tall at the horse end and 3.2 meters long, making it around 1.2 times the size of the largest horse ever to live, a Shire horse named Mammoth that reached the huge height of 2.2 meters. Mammoth weighed in at just over 1,500 kilograms at his largest, or 1.5 tons, but our Lynel is not only larger but also far more muscular, so I'd estimate the weight of his horse half at around 2.5 tons, or 5,500 pounds. This is because although the Lionel's only 1.2 times larger than Mammoth, to compensate for this size increase he's going to have to be a load heavier. This is because of the square cube law, which means as a shape gets larger, its volume, and therefore in this case its mass, grows faster than its surface area does. With animals, this means that when scaling up Mammoth's height to match the height of the Lionel, his weight would have to be increased much more to compensate. For the front half, we essentially have from the waist up a massive humanoid body, as you can see from the muscle definition, with the head of a lion. From our handy height screenshot, we can see from hooves to horns he's around 2.6 times as tall as our hero, making him a little over 4 meters tall. The largest primate ever was the prehistoric Gigantopithecus, which reached the height of 3 meters and weighed up to 600 kilograms. Though of course this was nowhere near as muscular or as tall as our Lionel here, so I think we could safely guess at 1,500 kilograms for the top half if you include his bulky equipment and sturdy horns. Adding the two halves together gives us a pretty juicy 4,000 kilograms, which is 4 tons, around the same weight as a hippo, coincidentally being pretty much the most dangerous animal to find in our world in the wild. If the two ever had a disagreement though, I think I'd still put my money on the Lionel. So there we go, we've weighed in our colossal centaur at around 4 tons, but we still need the deceleration, worked out with the speed the Lionel was charging at and the time it took for Link's shield parry to stop him. To do this, I used the oh so accurate method of meat measuring, patent pending. I dropped some raw meat I had at the point where the Lionel started its charge, as well as the point where the parry occurred, and then walked Link at his normal walking speed from meat A to meat B, which took 16 seconds. At the average human walking speed of 1.4 meters per second, this means that the Lionel covered 22.4 meters in its charge, which we can see took the beast only 1 second. That's almost 2 school buses in a single second. These things are not only terrifyingly large, they're scarily fast. But as I said at the start, the beasts of Hyrule aren't the scariest things in the wilds. It's Link. Yup, the Lionel charged the length of a blue whale in a second, but Link stops it instantly. He doesn't move back upon impact, slowing it gradually, he stops it dead with a single swing of the shield. That's crazy! So the starting velocity for the Lionel was 22.4 meters a second when it was charging, and the final velocity was 0 meters a second when it got stopped, making the change in velocity minus 22.4 meters per second. And although the Lionel stops pretty much instantly in game, let's give Link a little bit of leeway and say it took 0.2 seconds to stop the charge. So if we divide this change in velocity by 0.2 seconds, we get 112 meters per second squared for the deceleration of the Lionel. So finally we can now pop everything into the force formula and we'll get the following. The force is equal to the mass, 4,000 kilograms, times by the acceleration, 112 meters per second squared, giving us the total force to decelerate the Lionel at a tiny bit under 500,000 newtons. So with this shield bash, Link is swinging nearly 500,000 newtons, or a little over 100,000 pounds worth of force, which is more force than the thrust the Merlin 1 rocket engine produces for launching Falcon 1 flights. Yeah, Link can swing his arm with more force than a freaking rocket engine. That's insane. It doesn't matter just how devastating a Lionel's charge is, Link is able to stop it with ease with a flick of his arm. Bear in mind, the average force needed to break a human femur is around 4,000 newtons. This is the largest, strongest bone in our bodies, yet it takes only 1/100th of the force required to stop the Lionel's charge to break. The bite force of a great white shark is massive, but still pales in comparison to the hero at 18,000 newtons. A little closer is the force exerted by the seatbelt and airbag on a passenger in a 60 miles an hour car crash at 100,000 newtons. Long story short, this move's pretty ridiculous and would almost definitely mean death for any normal person hit with it. This one move pretty much secures Link at the top of the raw strength tier list for Hyrule's fighters, not even including how he can parry things such as a Hinox's swings or Calamity Ganon's swords. And not only is Link dishing out this insane level of force with his arm, he's also tanking a hit from it. Newton's second law says that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So this rocket launch level of force is being absorbed by Link when he performs the parry. This Link really means business. It totally makes sense now how he single-handedly took on this horde of enemies 100 years ago. The dude's a beast. Look, obviously the shield parry move is just designed to fit into the combat system and is completely independent of how strong Link actually is. But it's a really powerful looking move, especially when you're stopping something like a Lionel, so I thought it'd be fun to work out just how much force would be required. I get that this is a fancy video game with laser chainsaws, teleportation and slowing down time. This video is just for fun at the end of the day. I just thought it'd be cool to measure just how strong you'd have to be to parry things like Link does. If you liked it, please leave a like, it really helps the channel out, or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.